Last week was one of my favorite things that happens all year, which is the Industrial Marketing Summit. It was our second year to co-host this event with Gorilla 76, and we had over 50% growth. We had 320-ish marketers there, all from engineering and manufacturing. And on today's episode, I invited a few of my true crewers to join me and tell you all about the events, some of the key themes, what the vibe was like, and we'll also talk about the digital passes that are available to you if you miss the event so that you can still take advantage of the material that was presented. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by two members of the True Crew, Morgan Norris and Casey Tyreen. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
And we are fresh off of a wonderful time at last week's Industrial Marketing Summit. And we didn't want to let any grass grow underneath our feet. We wanted to get right on and talk about everything we saw and heard and help those of you that weren't able to make it understand what happened and some of the key takeaways and all of that good stuff. So let's start with this. Casey, real fast, for people who aren't familiar with the Industrial Marketing Summit, what the heck is it?
So it's a 2.5 day summit, and it's for specifically industrial marketers. We're a very specific bunch of professionals who have very niche problems. We're trying to target technical audiences with they're very kind of untrustworthy if they don't have the specific content that they want. So, just trying to make sure we have all the content that industrial marketers need, down to from analytics, social media, video stuff. I know we're all struggling with these new things and trying to develop content for industrial marketers.
Nice overview. And I know some people will ask me, like, industrial, like, what does that mean? I'm in electronics, or I target design engineers. And we're like, yeah, that's industrial. So
Yeah.
it's kind of this idea, this B to B to maybe there's a couple more B's in the chain. That's industrial. So it's not just, oh, I manufacture something or I'm doing something rugged. It doesn't necessarily mean, what was it? Dark, deep, dark, and what were
Dirty.
repeated?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Dirty.
Yeah. Just the dark and dirty, or, ones that are perceived that way. Okay. So Morgan, set the stage for me. Give me a visual of what attendees saw as they stepped through the door and as they went through their week. What did this event look like?
Yeah, so we were located in downtown Austin, sort of right on the south edge of the UT campus, just north of downtown, north of the river. The weather was beautiful. We had amazing weather the whole time, which is not uncommon in the end of February. So you could walk around in a t-shirt and feel comfortable. So you kind of walk in this convention center, and we were upstairs in just a completely dedicated space. And so for that, what that looked like is we had a big keynote room and then a second space where we had additional sessions. We also had co-working space up there. I know people had to take a phone call or met somebody that they wanted to have a quick meeting with on the side. And so there was a big co-working space that had tables and chairs in there that you could go meet up with people or get your work done that you needed to do in the breaks. But one thing that I loved was our big keynote room was full of round tables seated for 10. And so you were constantly connecting and conversing with other people. When it was time to eat, you would go out and grab your kind of buffet lunch, which the food was amazing. Everybody was like, I have never eaten this good at a conference. It's like, there's not a box sandwich in sight at the AT&T Center. But you would go get your food and go sit back down kind of at a table. They weren't assigned, so people kind of found their clusters as time went on. But you could go sit and have conversations with people that are facing the same challenges just like you were. And people are just so open and engaging and familiar. It's so funny because we go to a lot of marketing conferences, and sometimes you're in a B2B session and you're sitting next to somebody who sells makeup into a department store, and they feel like they're B2B, and you're like, oh no, I'm in like a whole different land of B2B. So everybody felt like they found their people, but it was just a very, a space that made it easy to kind of converse. The first night, the happy hours in the courtyard of the convention center, beautiful out there, but just everybody could walk right over multiple hotels within just a 3-minute walk or so. It was just close and just a really easy area to kind of connect with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also had tabletop booths, right? Casey, tell people a little bit about those.
Yeah, this was the first year we had sponsor exhibition area. So that was really important for sponsors to be able to like show off their services that were niched down to industrial marketing. So, you go to some conferences and some convention centers and you're like, please don't look at me when you're like walking through the booths. But all of these sponsors we like handpicked, approved, and they were actually adding value to those industrial marketers. So people were bopping around. I know we had our true marketing booth there. They were asking tons of questions. And then you would just see them walk down and have some amazing conversations with their other sponsors too.
And I love how a lot of people made stickers. And so there's a sticker swap. And I think every year now that's become a thing, right? There's 15 or 20 stickers you could pick up and put on your water bottle, your laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan, what were some of the key themes that you felt emerged from as you look across all the keynotes and the presentations? What are some just big ideas you heard?
Yeah, so I will focus on two that I think kind of prevailed through multiple keynotes and sessions. The first one was around AI. So Paul Reitzer gave our keynote the first day and really shared just the big vision of what's happening with AI. Where are we going? He showed a couple of examples of tools that, I heard people like gasp in the audience. It was a really great, catch you up, very up to date, catch you up on kind of what's been going on with AI and then where we're headed. And this idea too, that if, AI is not going to take your job, but a marketer who is maximizing their use of AI tools is if you don't keep up with this. And so just giving some practical ways to do that. And then in different sessions, I just saw examples and ways to use AI that people, it was so great. I think sometimes you're at a conference and maybe somebody says, oh, I put this in this tool and this in this tool and this in that tool. And then I put it all together and I created a website in 3 hours. And you're like, I don't think that's what I need.
Yeah.
But just really actually practical ways as you are developing marketing strategies and marketing execution to use those AI tools to make your job easier so you have more time to do other things and then to create better outputs, right? So Craig Coffey had a great quote in his presentation and just said, I don't want AI to paint and create for me so I have more time to clean the house. I want AI to clean my house so I have more time to paint and create. And just this encouragement of what can we automate? What can we do better and do quicker so that we can create more valuable experiences for our customers? So that was one. And then to that point of just customer experiences, this idea of customer voice came through. So Jenny Prost from Caterpillar gave a session on customer voice and really mapping the customer journey very intensely. So starting with personas and going through interviews and processing and understanding exactly where your customer is in every step of the buying journey. We had people are like, I have a buyer's journey that's 5 years long. It takes forever to close a sale. So what does it look like to walk with that person through that journey and to be there as a resource so that when they are ready to make a decision, you are absolutely top of mind, trusted, and ready to go for them. So that came through. And then I think customer voice came through too, in Dale's keynote. So Dale talked about just how SEO is changing. I love, Dale has what historically was a few years ago, like an SEO agency. And while that's still the same, the way to go about that looks completely different. And Dale is just on top and ahead of what's happening. And so thinking about your customer, putting yourselves in their shoes, and then what are they looking for? What's their intent? And how do we customize what we're creating for their intent? And I love when Dale talks, because it's a lot of information, but I think you feel so free at the end of it, because you're like, oh, I don't have to write content for 8,000 keywords that may or may not be related to what my customer needs. I need to create content, and I need to create experiences for my customer that's exactly what they need right now. It's not everything. It's very targeted. And especially for industrial marketers, I mean, you think about if you're creating, you're designing test systems, you don't need every single piece of content about a test system. You need the content that your prospects are looking for when they're creating the specific types of test systems that you focus on. And so you're like, this is okay. We can do this. But that customer voice came in there too. So a few things that stood out.
I think that one more that stood out to me, and you presented on it during your workshop, was the idea of having personal brands, so that the corporate brand is secondary to having a human voice that represents that brand. And that's a very nuanced approach for companies. So how do they do that? How do they go from company brand forward to developing individual voices that are authentic, but still get the right messages across? And also just the rise in video, and a lot of talk about video first and then derivative content into everything else, which is really somewhat of a flip, I think, of what the traditional inbound marketer's done, right? Where you start with the blog post, or you start with the white paper, and then you may spin that out into things. But now there's a really big case for going video first, which I think surprised a lot of marketers, but others are well ahead of that. And lots of good practical tips on how to approach video in a pragmatic way with your iPhone. And I remember one presentation, I think it was Jake Hall, during his LinkedIn presentation, even gave us some equipment suggestions that fit right into our iPhone, so we have better sound. And just this mix of big concepts and practical tips made this conference really sticky, I think.
Well, and I think too, like a lot of the industrial marketers, they're very small teams. They have heard of AI. They know they need to do video, but they're just like, I've got so much going on. I cannot even dedicate any resources or even my workload to this. So that's why we had those sessions that were very actionable in the summit, because we know it's important. We luckily get to do marketing all day long and only focus on that. So we know it's really important, but this was like 3 days where they could focus on like what their future looks like. They have to start doing video. They have to start diving into AI just a little bit, because people still are not doing the basic AI stuff. So I liked the point that Paul made in his keynote for AI. The big companies are going all in on AI. They've already made that decision. Like Google is doing AI, Microsoft, all their resources are going towards AI. So marketers, like, that decision has been made for you. You got to start using AI.
Good takeaway. Yes, that's right. It's showing up whether you like it or not. Your ads aren't showing up whether you like it or not in Google, which is just kind of bizarre, really. I mean, given that revenue stream that they're sort of setting on the shelf a bit. So I can't wait to see how that all plays out. But really good observation, Casey. I like something else you said about the small like department of one type marketer. We had this interesting mix of enterprise companies and bigger companies, as well as really small manufacturers and distributors that have to do with very little resources. And I was proud of the way we were able to balance the curriculum for both marketers. And you had a lot of sophisticated people or experienced people on both ends of the spectrum, but yet their needs and their ability to implement are very different. Jenny at Caterpillar and her mapping the customer journey looks really different, right, for the marketer of one or few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then with the marketer of one, it's a similar but separate topic. It was so awesome to see, like in those rounds that Morgan was talking about, the round tables, constantly just one person, is this seat taken? Is this seat taken? Oh, cool. Like, come join us. And it never felt like those singles that had to come by themselves because they're one or they didn't have budget to send more. They felt so welcome. And that's not really something event planners can plan. That's like only the community can make that happen and make single people feel comfortable, and they can just come in and talk and not feel left out. So I'm proud of the community in general for like embracing everyone.
Yeah, and I know sometimes there's skepticism about doing roundtables where theoretically your back's to the stage, but it's such an easy fix. Just turn your chair around when they're talking and turn back around and look at all these new friends you've made and ideas you can swap.
Yeah, it worked so well. And I think too, on that note, we had an app that went along with the conference, and the engagement on the app was awesome. So you could go in and you could ask questions like before you even attended a session. You could go ahead and like, I want this presenter to cover these things or answer these questions. There were meetups happening on the app. Like there was a whole group of people that went to go get barbecue that was like walkable just north of the conference center, things like that, where people were making connections. Whether it was like for relationships because they were all going to go back to the same local area or right then. Anyway, it was just, that was very organic and cool.
I know. I'm surprised my pickleball suggestion didn't like get more legs, but I'm gonna keep trying next year.
Okay.
So. And because I really like corny puns, I like that the meetup was a meet up.
Me too.
Good.
But Wendy, your karaoke suggestion, that went off without a hit. There was some karaoke.
It did, and I didn't even start that. I think it was just in the community. So yeah, I will confess that Morgan and we took Paul Racer to dinner after his keynote, and then all three of us hit the IMS karaoke, which was held in a very divey bar in Austin that I had never been to. And wow, I think that place has been there since like the 60s.
It was like under a parking garage.
Yes.
It was like weird.
It was
it was super divey. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there were all those. I feel like people really enjoyed Austin. I mean, there's a lot to do and go and visit in Austin. And I feel like people really enjoyed that too. I was like connecting people people that I had met that were, a few degrees of separation. And sure enough, they're after the happy hour on Wednesday night, they were headed off in Ubers together to go to dinner or walking somewhere to go see. And it was just, and people coming up to me the next morning being like, oh my gosh, thank you for that introduction. I had the best dinner with this group of people that I just met. And so it was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard this really cool story at one of the events that we had. We were talking about one of the panels and what did you guys think? And it was Jared Beasley I was talking to, and he said, I'm a distributor, and I was talking to Emily Ting, who's a manufacturer, and he goes, and we don't work together directly, but we're sort of in the same space. And Emily wanted to create a program for her distributors, and she reached out to ask me for feedback, and we ended up spending the year just being each other's sounding boards. And it was so valuable. And we were really excited to see each other in person again at the next IMS, after spending this year on and off, just being there for each other. And if that's not a great representation of community and what can happen when you meet at an event and make these connections, it was so perfect.
Yeah. I love that.
Y'all hear any other stories like that?
Somebody got offered a job after the first day, which I thought was so cool. People just meeting at these tables, sitting around kind of at lunch and being, what do you do? Where are you here from? And saying, oh my gosh, I need you on my team. And it's the right spot. You have all these people with experience. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the app that people were the profile, like the personal profiles, you could easily connect on LinkedIn and different things. So I ran into a couple people who were like, I'm freelancing, but I'm looking for full-time work. And this is just so helpful to like grow my connections.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we had one thing I wanted to mention too, was we had a whole group of Emerson Impact Partners. So they typically get together once a year to do, it's that partner network represents like 18 different companies, but they have their marketing people from all those companies get together once a year, and they do kind of their own day and a half of meetings, and it's mostly kind of like debrief and information sharing and process sharing and things like that. And they actually located that in Austin at the convention center the day and a half before the conference started. And so they were able to roll right into the conference as learning and enrichment. And it was great. They had a great time. I think they were able to just even further kind of strengthen their connections with each other, as well as kind of grow their own network, and have all that training provided for them, right? Rather than sometimes you host something like that for your own company and you're like, oh my gosh, we're going to have to bring people in and it's going to be all of this organization and coordination, but they just brought their people to the conference and did it that way. And I think that worked really well.
Yeah, I'll use that as a segue into next year to say, I really do think as event organizers, we should, as much as we can, help those groups. They ended up being, if you will, contractually a subset of our conference. So we actually were pretty hands-on in helping them with that. And it worked out so nicely. I think we'd like to do that as much as we can, bandwidth-wise, with a few other groups as well. So it was, just was like a win-win-win kind of deal.
Yeah. Is that something that people can reach out through the website or reach out to Casey directly if they're interested?
Yeah, I would say probably our website is the best place to go for that. We have a contact us form. And so I guess, as I alluded to, we are planning on coming back in 2026. We are looking at, we're going to have to expand. It's a great problem to have. We had over 320 people this year. I don't know if we mentioned that at the beginning. It was over 50% growth year over year, which is great. So we're hearing a lot of people leaving this event saying, I want to bring my sales team. I want to bring my manager. I want to bring my marketing team. So we're looking at an expanded space, whether it's at the AT&T Center or somewhere else, but we will stay in Texas around the same dates, and we're getting on the ball right away so we can announce dates and location, get it on everybody's calendars. But I'm excited to come back. And Casey had a very unique role within this event. She managed all of the sponsors and presenters. I called her the presenter and sponsor concierge, but really it's
very fancy.
Broader than that, really. You did so much work, and I just thank you for that, and helped us run so smoothly. So so Casey, can you explain just the call for presentations and sponsors and just at a high level how that went down? So just people who are interested in getting involved next year know what to expect.
Yeah, I had conversations about that over a couple days, just because some people, they wanted to know like what exactly that process looks like. Do you guys see the sun? That's
you're like,
But we had speakers this year that attended last year. So if you attended and you're like, I can be up on stage, I can do that. That is, we want to have our community teach our community. So it's definitely not speakers that are on the speaker circuit that are just sharing these generic like marketing messages across the US. But as far as the process goes, once we know our date, I'll just say how we did it last year. We started calling for speakers in July because that preparation process takes about 6 months. So around in the summer, whenever that is, we'll put a survey out. Everyone is open to apply. I know one thing that we're looking for is presentations that add value. So if you come to us and you say, I want to do a session on B2B marketing, that's pretty broad. Like it kind of doesn't seem like you know the industrial marketing struggle. So I know those were the ones we got really excited when we were looking is, oh my gosh, everyone struggles with that. That would be so awesome to have them on stage. And then just as some behind the scenes stuff, I think we had like 90 applications last year and roughly like 25 speakers. And then when we see kind of like a theme of maybe there's a lot of video content people, there's a lot of distributor content, we'll place you into panels and different things. So it kind of shakes out with Like, we know what kind of content we want to provide. We know we need to have a video session. We know we want to have analytics, that kind of thing. And then you come with like a specific presentation. So that's like tips on how to become a speaker, but we're always looking for like really, really valuable content. I think that's what we pride ourselves for speaking.
Yeah, lots of examples. People who have done what they're talking about and can show it, like, I think speaks volumes.
Yeah. We like when like after the selection process, I immediately send out, this is your presentation. It has to have real world examples. It cannot have B2C examples because nobody needs that information for B2B industrial. It has to have like specific resources and like actionable takeaways. So I want to see people writing down something that they can do the very next day. So we're really strict on that.
Yeah. Good explanation. And then how about if someone wants to be a sponsor?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
We also don't accept everyone. They also have to bring value. And it's a tiered system. So there's the premier sponsorships. This year we had 3D Find It from Cadenas and Sitecore and Icreon. They sponsored like the soiree and kind of those bigger things, the lunches. So I know they got a ton of value. I was seeing conversations on their booth constantly, and they felt like they were in the right audience. People actually needed their services. And then there's like lower tiers from that. So if you have a smaller budget or don't really know what to expect with IMS, you can kind of go on that lower tier and get your feet wet. But it ranges. Like we had marketing agencies that work with industrial brands. We had industrial publications, technical publications there, which is really helpful for marketers to be connected to the publications. But that's also just a online process as well to get started.
Yeah. So we developed a sponsor prospectus that gives a little more information about the demographics of the attendees and things like that, in addition to those tiers that Casey spoke about. So we'll probably have that pulled together around May, I would say. And so that would be a good time if you're interested in sponsoring to reach out, or at least you can get on our radar now and we can follow up with you, of course. But be happy to have more people participate next year. Like you said, if they fit the event and add value, because that's really important to us. So
and I think for sponsors here, sometimes you go to a big show and you go kind of walk the show floor, and that's where sponsors are. But because people are so conversational, people feel like they could relate to everyone in the room. Everybody's really conversational. And so every time you walk out of that big keynote room, they're the sponsors, and it's just so easy to pick up a conversation. It's so the opposite of when you like walk by sponsor booths and you're like, please, no one talk to me. I don't want to make eye contact because I don't want to have to, because you're like, all of the, that publication and that software platform and that agency would all be applicable to me. So I think that's really good.
Yeah. Good point. Well, for those of you listening that weren't able to join us at IMS, but you still want to see the material, we're offering a digital pass. So Casey, could you give a little more information about where to get it, how much it costs, that kind of stuff?
So anyone that attended the conference also gets that digital pass. I want to share that because we had 2 sessions going on at the same time a lot of times, and people were so torn about which session to go to. So people who are physical attendees, they also get this. And then if you weren't there physically, you can still purchase an online pass, which is recordings of almost every session. It's not the keynote. It's not like the round table that there was lots of people talking because we couldn't record that. But you'll get all of the sessions in a recording. You'll get the PowerPoint deck. You'll get an AI recap because a lot of people have good intentions of watching every video and they don't. So at least you get like a down and dirty recap of every session. And that's available now. You can get that online at industrialmarketingsummit.com. It's a button at the top of the page, and that's a fraction of what an in-person ticket. So it's $550, and then you get that for ever, I guess.
You could purchase it now, but the materials will be available. I think it's starting mid-March. So know that.
Good point. We have to package it up nicely for you.
Yeah, exactly. Because we want everybody to benefit from this in the industrial marketing community, whoever can. And then lastly, there's something else kind of exciting happening this week, and Morgan just wired a press release about it. So Morgan, what else does True Marketing have going on this week?
Yes. So our research announced this morning. So the new State of Marketing to Engineers report for 2025 is live. All of that research is there. We, of course, kind of tied that research into some of the sessions that we did at the Industrial Marketing Summit. That research is always fueling the best practices that we're putting into place for our clients because it's data-driven and ready to go. So if you are interested in how engineers think about AI, what they're thinking about events, what types of content they're looking for, search is changing, right? The things that people are getting delivered on Google are changing. How they're searching is changing. And so we want to be able to lead with the right things that they're looking for, right? So there's a lot of insight in that research report, and that is available on truemarketing.com.
Yeah, and just a big shout out to our research partner, Global Spec. And this is the 8th year we've conducted this research with Global Specs. They've been an absolutely outstanding partner to us. And then this year we brought in a collaborator in Elector. And Elector is a European-based technical publication. They have actually some properties in Asia Pacific as well. So we invited them in so that we could have a more global view and global impact to the data. So you can get the research now, and then there's a webinar coming up in mid-March. So a live webinar where we will present the results and our take on them. And then I'm sure at some point in time, we'll come back on this podcast with the research we always do. So that's some good stuff. And also I made this awesome Spotify playlist for IMS. So I'm just saying, maybe that could be a bonus download on the digital pass or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you should do that.
Or hit me up on LinkedIn and I'll send you the Spotify playlist because I'm pretty proud of it.
lots of requests for that by the end.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, any last thoughts before we call it here?
I think I'm just very proud of our community. I mean, we did a good job organizing it, but it really was the community, 300 people strong this year that embraced everyone, and they learned a lot. They shared their own tips. We had an interactive session where we didn't even have a speaker, and we just shared tips about the CRMs that they were using, and everyone was willing to share their secrets and level up everyone in the room. So I'm proud of attendees.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to end this and a great way to sum up the magic behind this event. So thank you for that. Thank you to you both for stopping by. I know we're all a little bit and still coming off the IMS high, but I appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.